Live. Oh, it's that Facebook anyway. That one looks good.
Okay. Do we have? All right, very good. Hi, everybody on YouTube. How are you tonight? This one's Instagram, this one's Facebook.
Instagram, Santa, Facebook. Yours. All right.
Hi, everybody on Facebook. How are you? Hi, everybody on Instagram. How's it going? Please let me know if you can see and hear us okay.
All right, we've got some folk on YouTube.
Okay. It's all on you tonight, Polly. I don't know what.
This is true. Let me just put this over here.
So I'm just going to try to find this on here and
get everybody situated.
Call it a day for myself here.
Let me find you on this as well.
I found this.
Okay. Now I can get this going here. My search has been not working so well.
Okay.
That'll be good. Okay. So everybody, thanks for tuning in tonight's special event about Ivy. So tonight we're going to interview Ivy, and I have some questions, and I want to take your questions. So we'll be asking about Ivy's life, her career, and the Ivy League Psychic Academy. And before we get into that, I just want to make a notice that we have an upcoming psychic mediumship course that starts on March 24th, and that's available online, in person, video download. 2 pathways to learning. You should check them out at ivyleaguepsychicacademy.com. Mm-hmm. And the registration deadline is going to be March 20th.
Yeah.
So if you're interested, seats are filling up. So please come join us. And it's an amazing course. And we'll talk more about that tonight.
Yeah, the psychic mediumship course runs about 2 semesters, and we only do it twice a year. So if you're planning to do this, you're going to want to register soon, figure out which pathway you want. This is the spring session. Otherwise, you're going to have to wait until, I think it's October 7th, maybe? But it's up on the website. Paul knows more about it.
Yes. So.
And they can hear okay? Everybody can hear
both
of us?
Vanessa Dempsey, thank you. She said yes, she can hear us. And we've got people tuning in all over. And Instagram's firing. Everything's looking good. I'm not sure how long this is going to be. So if we go long, we're going at Facebook and YouTube as well. So if we cut out, zook over there. And
yeah, because I think Instagram goes 1 hour.
1 hour.
Okay.
So who knows? So.
Okay.
All right, everybody. As I said, send any questions and we'll try to take them. So tonight's all about Ivy, as the title says.
Okay.
About Ivy. Okay, Ivy. So. I recently have been interviewing students of the Ivy League, and one question I asked them is, what brought them to your psychic mediumship program? So what brought you to psychic mediumship?
Oh, okay. So I did not bring myself to psychic mediumship. I would say that psychic mediumship brought me to it. It was the kind of thing that was following me my whole life. I was born into it. I never trained. I was automatically able to do it. There were a couple circumstances that happened to me when I was a kid that I believe increased my abilities, empathic, psychic, as well as mediumistic. And a couple key things were my grandmother having had a stroke. She was trapped in a hospital bed for about 27 years. She was unable to speak. She couldn't feed herself. She couldn't get up to go to the bathroom, nothing. So Grandma, God bless her, Grandma had a little bit of mobility in her left arm, and that was it. And when we relocated from Georgia when I was little, we would go to see her several times a week for many hours on end because she was trapped in the infirmary. And during that time, I learned telepathy, okay, because that's how she communicated, was through telepathy. And I thought it was normal. I thought, Grandma and I did it, but around that time, I was able to use that telepathy with other people accidentally in the hospital and then out on the streets and within the family. And I would get in a lot of trouble for that. My mother would think that I was calling people at the infirmary over to me, and they'd be coming with their wheelchairs, and I was kind of horrified, really, running away to get away from them. And she would say, why do you keep talking to them? I said, I swear to God, I wasn't. I swear to God. So I couldn't, around that age, and I was like 6 when she died, I couldn't stay out of other people's heads. And I would hear everything. I would hear everybody. And then when she passed, she was communicating with me in spirit. So the mediumship really kicked up. Now, I had been seeing spirits all along, but I didn't really fully understand that there were different categories. But your grandmother, once grandma passed, I understood that some of them were deceased people. Some of them were other things. Some of them were not good. And I started to figure out categories. So I would say that grandma was the biggest trigger in my life to show me what this was. But in my family, we didn't hide it. Yeah. My family's from France and Puerto Rico. And so it was just sort of expected. There were other people in the family who did it too. And I was told not to talk about it at Catholic school. I was told to keep my mouth shut. But it kept growing and following me. So over the course of my life, in order to stay sane and stable, I had to learn how to deal with it. There was no escaping it. So the only thing I've ever pursued was figuring out how to handle it.
So when did you realize that this was an ability that everyone has? And then what called you to start teaching and open up the academy?
That's a good one. Okay, so I figured out that this was an ability that everybody has when I was about 15. I've been living on my own since I was 14. And at 15, I had an apartment. And I was in a grocery store, just doing my normal thing. And this lady kept following me. So every aisle I went to, I was like, this lady's behind me again. I was like, I'm in trouble. And I get to the checkout, and she was behind me in the checkout. And I was like, I wonder if she's going to say something. And she did. So she reached out and she said, I've been following you through the store. And I said, yeah, I noticed that. And she said, I'm from Lilydale. And she said, I'm a medium. She said, do you know that you have the gift? And that's a spiritualist community. For those of you that don't know, it's just a spiritualist community where mediums and psychics live in New York State. So she said, are you aware that you have it? And I said, well, I'm aware that I have something. I said, but it's not what you guys have. I said, I can't do what you guys do. You guys sit down and you do it for extended time. I said, my stuff just comes and goes. It's sporadic. It's chaotic. I don't even know what it is, even if it's accurate. What's the point? And she said, well, you should let me train you. And I thought, well, I'm 15. I'm living on my own. I have nothing to lose. So I said, okay. Well, her idea of training me was to, she said, take someone that you don't know and sit them down in a chair in front of you and just open your mouth. And so I was at my apartment one day, and somebody came for my roommate, Berto. Berto wasn't home from work yet. So this guy comes to the door. I don't know him from Adam. And no one else was at the apartment. And so I said, come in here. Don't tell me anything. Don't tell me your name. Don't tell me anything. And I got these 2 chairs, and I sat him down in front of me, and my willing victim, my guinea pig. And I just opened my mouth, and it came out for like 45 minutes. It just kept coming out. So I was channeling like his grandmother. I was channeling his grandfather. I told him that he had a truck packed and he was trying to leave for Arizona, but that his brother had left the scene, his older brother, and now he was stuck taking care of his elderly grandfather. I knew his hopes. I knew his dreams. I knew everything. He was bawling. I was shocked. And that was the moment I realized, I think everybody is able to do this. And I've been testing it out ever since, and it's accurate.
Did he and Berto end up going out after that?
I don't know. Everybody came home and we just acted like it never happened. We put the chairs back. We never spoke of it, like ever.
Well, now it's out. So
now it's out.
Thank you.
Yeah, that was very random. And that was the extent of my training. I never required any training after, that little test.
It's funny. I was going to ask you if you remembered your first reading, but apparently you do.
Yes. It was nuts. But yes, everybody can do it.
So what called you to open up the academy and start teaching?
I had, Spirit had come to me and made it very clear that I was supposed to start reading for the public. And I didn't want to. I had my journalism degree, and I was embarking on, a good writing career, but the messages kept coming. And so I was going through a process called, I call it the breaking of the legs, where spirit was essentially putting me in a timeout chair, and I was having hits against my prosperity for not doing what I was being called to do. So I gave in and I started reading for the public, and it just exploded overnight. But I had about 5 different clients who kept coming to me who kept saying, I think I have this too, and I am terrified to deal with it. And they had a few different key reasons that they were scared. And I thought, you know what? I've been battling this since I was 15 years old in a major way, but really my whole life. And I thought, these aren't good reasons to be fearful of not giving it out. And I didn't know how the heck I was going to train people, but through the process of spirit showing me what to say and how to instruct them on how this works and how to keep it in the light, that's how the school started. And that blew up overnight.
Yeah, that's awesome.
It was really for those 5 girls who never showed up.
Well, they let.
But everybody else did.
Right.
Yeah, it was random.
They were there for a reason.
Right.
How many students do you think have gone through your mediumship training over the years?
I don't know. At this point, I would say probably a few thousand, and a lot more for the other classes.
Yeah.
So, we've had a ton of people start. Not everybody finishes because it is challenging. But for those who have gone through, I would say that it's changed their lives in major ways. So,
yeah.
Many.
Yeah, I would agree.
Yes. And from all over.
Yeah.
Yeah, from all over. So it started small. It started in my living room, and we would have sometimes 50 people taking up 2 blocks or more in the neighborhood. 50, 55 people on the back lawn, sitting on the toilet seat, sitting on my kids' beds, sitting, on the landing at the stairway, 3 different sets of people reading each other in the kitchen, elbow to elbow, ridiculous. And then we went through a few different locations, and that's really when it started to grow, is when I got a location on Main Street in Amherst, and I got good internet.
Yes.
So when I got good internet service, and then we moved up to FiOS, we were able to do more nationwide and internationally.
Very cool. Featherly has a question about, you had mentioned that your family was, with it, but she said, don't mention it in Catholic school. So she's wondering if this ever made you feel like you didn't belong or odd or anything.
Hi, Featherly. Did it make me feel like I was odd? I remember a teacher at Catholic school literally coming up to me when we were in the computer room, because back then the school had like 5 computers, right? And they were huge. They took up an entire room, and everyone had to take turns. And I remember her coming in and stopping at the doorway and leaning up against it and glaring at me. And she said, you and your brother are weird. And I was like, wow, like I am under attack from every angle. And it was always adults. I remember my mother ending up in court for getting attacked by some random adults. Just strange things like that would happen all the time. And I remember at school, because it was Catholic school, being told things like, this is of the devil and only Jesus and the prophets could do this. Or that's something that only angels do. And everything was so categorized. And I just remember looking at adults and thinking that they were lying and that they were not very intelligent. And I chose myself over them. So I had to come to that point early in life where I was like, it's either me or them, but they're going to eat me alive. And I was not going to sell my own self out. So I stayed with spirit, and I stayed with myself, and I started tuning them out. And still to this day, anyone older than me, it takes a lot for me to listen to anybody. They have to really prove that what they're saying is true and right, because I saw a lot of darkness. So luckily, because of that darkness, I was turned off to listening to them.
That's a good segue then to the next question is something I think that is often overlooked or people don't realize is that you're a priest.
Yeah.
And so that flies in the face of this being of the devil, I would say. And why do you think that religious organizations generally consider this to be evil instead of healing?
Because they want to keep the power in their own hands, and they're doing it for money. As long as we remove God from people and we keep it in place of the church or the hierarchy, then we have certain people who are able to connect, humans with God. And the reality is that God's in us. God's in a leaf, God's in the wind, God's in the fire, God's in you. God's speaking through spirit, okay, the Holy Spirit in you all the time. And so we've been trained to tune that out. And it's for them to keep the power. And I believe that the training manuals for mediums, that these were in the Old Testament, in the books of Solomon, and were removed. And we have one English version of those books left today, and it's very chopped up. So I believe that what I've been shown is to replace what was removed from the Old Testament.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's having gone through it, it's very accessible, and it's amazing.
It's very, very simple. It's a very simple language. It's natural. Mm-hmm. It's our roots. We get sick when we don't do it. That's the condition that we're in. This chaotic scene that we're looking at in society today is the result of having lost touch with our roots. And when they removed it from the Old Testament and these books of Solomon, they then categorized mediums as being devil worshippers, rapists, thieves, and they put us in with the darkest of the dark. That's how it came to be. And they've held that power ever since.
And it's funny, like, how it changed when, like, say the ancient Greeks, the oracle was held in such high regard, but it was still just the one, or whoever were in the thing, and now it's like evil. Instead of like kings going to see them, it's, don't do it. It's not. Don't do it. Don't take your power back.
Yeah,
don't do it.
Woo, yeah.
Don't know things. Yeah.
Well, and the natives always understood, and there were always tribes of people that never gave it up. And we see that down through the lineage, but very few have kept in touch with their roots. And those that seem to know how to do it maybe don't fully understand still the language. I still feel that the trainings have been removed.
Mm-hmm. Speaking of natives, you're a Taino Airwalk. Mm-hmm. Do you feel that this has added more to your psychic and mediumistic abilities?
I do. I believe that, and a lot of this is based on scientific and medical research, I believe that a lot of this is genetic. So that doesn't go against what I already said, that everybody has the ability, but I do believe that some people have an increased amount of the ability, and I think that is genetic. For the rest of the people who seem to just be born right into it, it could be coming from environmental circumstances that triggered it. Mm-hmm. And then everybody else has to kind of develop it. We have to get back in touch with it, but it's there for everybody. So yes, I think natives, for sure, the Hispanic community, African American community, yeah, there are a couple key spots where it's very, very intense.
Good.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to go back to the academy for a little bit.
Okay.
And your career. So the Ivy League Psychic Academy has been offering online and downloadable classes for years now, which is really cool. Smart move to get students all over the world involved. Okay. You yourself have recently made the switch to using technology exclusively for your private readings. How hard is it to convince everyone that it's the same as being in person?
People are acting old, and people are acting old in their thinking. And so some people have felt almost personally attacked by my transfer from doing in-person readings to going online. And they've said things like, well, this isn't the same product. And I said, how do you know? You haven't even tried it. The reviews and the ratings are higher for phone, for FaceTime, for email. People prefer, and it's not just because they're at home in their PJs with a cup of coffee. It's because they feel somehow I'm either connecting to the information more, spirit's coming through more, they're connecting to it more. I didn't force anyone to give higher ratings on my tech reads, It's just a natural progression of things. And so I get annoyed when people say, well, I wanted the real deal. You're getting more than the real deal by doing it online. I understand that there are some readers out there who can't read through technology, but I'm not one of them. It hasn't been a problem for me ever. Since the day I came out, I've been doing tech reads. A million years ago when nobody was really, doing it other than the hotlines. So I really don't care, People want to complain about it. I don't care. Then go somewhere else. You'll come back here eventually, probably, What? It's not my problem, You get what you pay for. I don't know. But I can't continue to go against spirit and inconvenience myself. You know, spirit said evolve and switch. You're done doing this in person. And I think that it became something toxic too at some point because I was slow in switching out after I knew that I should have. And so I think that when you don't do what spirit tells you to do in time, it sort of takes on a different tone. And I started to attract some very weird circumstances for the in-person readings. And I'm just done.
So was it spirit's guidance in the first place to tell you to stop doing the tech? Or did you just one day, like a phone call and say, oh, I can read you over the phone and just give it a whirl? Or
straight away. So as soon as spirit had told me to start reading for the public and I opened up to doing that, I was immediately getting in-person as well as phone readings.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. So from just different states and things like that, or people who were shut in, people who couldn't make it. You know, a lot of people just don't want to drive, whatever the situation was. So it was always there. I never thought of it as really something else.
Yeah, like up here in the winter?
Yeah. All winter long?
F that.
No.
Very cool.
We're done. Yeah.
So recently on Facebook, you've started posting parts of your Mythbusting class.
Okay.
And it's really rattling cages, and it's pretty excellent.
Right.
How important is it to you to be exposing these myths to everybody?
Oh, I think it's hugely important. The trainings that are going on internationally, infamous trainings, old trainings, they are based on a few key myths that do not allow for the student to evolve into full-on mediumship practice. And whether they're behaving in accordance with almost like the church to keep the power and the hierarchy going and to keep the money in their, you know, in their pockets, or they're ignorant to the truth. I'm not sure what's going on. I just know that my method is incredibly different from theirs, and that it's mostly different because of a couple key myths that they're abiding by. And if we remove these, we really start to get the flow and the depth, and then the rest of the training can come into play. So yeah, things like, you know, that it doesn't take a year to a year and a half to hear from a spirit. Oh my gosh. Right? Like silly things that to me and my students are silly, but that's not funny. If you actually believe that's true and you're trying to be a medium, like you're doomed, you know? That's rattled a lot of cages. What else?
Gift.
That it's a gift.
Yeah.
You know, even the teachers out there who say, you know, that it's something everybody has, they're not actually training them to do it. They're training them to meditate. They're kind of putting them in the ballpark, you know, a general idea of what's going on. They're not actually training them in the language. So maybe they do feel like it's a gift, or they want to keep it to themselves, but it isn't. So yes, everybody has it. That rattles a lot of cages because people love to play the psychic, you know. People love to pretend that they're a medium or connect themselves to angel energy and the angel wings and the godly light, you know, I'm this and that, I'm a healer. And when you say to somebody, we all are, they're offended.
Yeah. Yeah. So do you think that all this myth busting will help remove any of the stigmas associated with psychics and mediums? Or?
Yes, I think that the myth busting is going to help. It always has. It's one of the favorite classes that we do. We do it very early on in psychic mediumship course.
Sure, yeah.
So they love it. They're like, oh my God, I've always thought this, you know, but I've never heard anyone say it. So yeah, it's huge. But it also, it helps really to normalize things. And the more we're normalizing this, the more we're helping the average person to get back in touch with their roots and, you know, then to start breaking down other stigmas against us. Anything from mental illness, you know, to anxiety disorders, to depression, to hallucinations. I mean, all kinds of things. This is where we start.
Perfect. Yeah, that's great.
To mainstream this, yes.
Yeah, I remember my first mediumship class. The day after, I was out working, and like I was looking at someone's house, and it was like every eye in the universe is on me. Like,
Okay.
it's a whole different world. Like it just, like I was wide open. But you showed us how to set boundaries and
Right.
kind of shut off, as it were.
Right.
So when you started to become aware of this when you were a kid, up until like you're doing readings and stuff, how did you learn to control this? And was there anyone there to teach you? And if not, how did you figure it out?
So that was really hard. Grateful as I was to the medium who found me in the grocery store, you know, when you just dive into something like this and you start really full on entertaining it, it's like opening up Pandora's box. And that's dangerous. And this is why I get angry at people who come in for a few of my classes and then they try to rip off the curriculum and go out and reteach it. You know, you have to train each individual on where they are. That's why we have assistant teachers. And this is why I'm constantly watching my students, and we have, you know, chats going on, and it's like babysitting a process. And it has to be done very carefully, very delicately. You don't want to open up Pandora's box without making sure that the new abilities and intuitive intelligence can be managed, because otherwise it gets overwhelming and the person can feel like they're on overload. A ton of students come in because they feel like they're on overload. They feel that their depressive disorders or their anxiety disorders or their ADHD, they feel like some of the problems that they're having are actually connected to these abilities, and they're accurate. So I forgot what the question was, but
that's okay. This
is that answering it?
This is about Ivy.
Apparently,
the question was, how did you learn how to set your boundaries? Shut off. If no one was there.
Yeah, right. And so, and most people who come into the academy say, you know, no one taught me. I went and I spent 5 years over here, $3,000 over here. No one taught me. No one taught me how to control it. And that's always been a part of the training from day one, because I had to teach myself. So I had to teach myself as a kid when I was dealing with the empathic overload. And now we have like empathic awareness training, and we just did UB, we're doing Niagara University, we're in school systems. You know, it's all about mindfulness and control of your energy, but that leads to disorders. Then there was the psychic ability and the mediumship stuff, and I had to train myself every step of the way, because I will say this, the darkest part of it was when the empathic ability hit the 4th level and started causing these anxiety disorders, and when the medium helped me to open up Pandora's box, and I started giving readings, and like the floodgates opened, like every spirit in the universe came. Like when you said that was the question, wasn't it? I always eventually come back around. Could take a day or two, who knows? But when you feel like all eyes are on you, that's real. All eyes were on you because we opened up Pandora's box. But the difference is with you and your fellow classmates, I trained you in how to cope with that, how to set proper boundaries, and no one showed me how to do that. So I was sort of just kind of eaten alive. And it had to be regulated. So I learned the tools to protect myself. And that's what I reteach to adults, to kids, to whoever's attending.
Yeah, those were, I mean, it was cool for that day, but
it's entertaining, but not.
I wouldn't like that all the time.
No, not all the time.
You know, I like having my own brain to do the weird
it's
things
very
it's
intrusive. Yes. And light and dark energies are attracted to you. So it's serious. It really is. Yeah.
And so with that topic, you know, how would you know? Like, I know you teach us, you know, only the light, and you can kind of tell. So
right.
How would someone who is, say, new to this or is developing it before they come to your mediumship class, how would they discern between light energies and dark energies?
Well, so one of the classes that we have, one of the weeks, we have, it's called Hauntings, Clearings, and Detachments class. And these are available to anyone. You just get the download. But that's the class where we break down the difference between light and dark energies. And the way you guys are going to know that you're communicating with the light versus the dark is the way it feels to you physically, mentally, and emotionally. Your messages, the messages coming through to you, should be positive, uplifting, healing, with some purpose. They should never be dark, menacing, depressive, self-defeating. Our brains are often manipulated, and this is the most dangerous thing to have. Everyone who wants to be a psychic, everyone who wants to be a medium comes in and they're like, I want clairaudience. They all think they have claircognizance,
Yeah, right.
the highest.
So why wouldn't they?
Right. And then they want to have clairaudience. Once we get into the curriculum, they understand they're probably starting from the bottom and they need that first. So what happens with clairaudient ability is that your brain is actually manipulated. And so the spirits don't communicate with you verbally like this. They communicate through thoughts. And that's where things get, tricky. And this is where discernment comes in.
That's very cool. So people here usually watch your show, Ask a Medium. So you started that years ago. And so what prompted you to make the jump into broadcasts, whether they were web, audio? Podcasts,
yeah, right.
First and
radio or whatever it was. People had asked me to come on. They would ask me to come on their shows. And I was like, ugh, I really didn't want to do it. And I don't like public speaking. It makes me very nervous. And so I had no ambition to do it, but they felt that I could support their show in some way. And again, like everything else with this is a calling. This is something that I feel responsible to share. It's part of the service. So I started doing it for other people. And then Spirit was showing me, oh, how this came up and this came up and this came up. But, on this interview or the show that you sat in with, we want you to do this weekly or bi-weekly. And then I got picked up. By a couple radio stations. So did that for a while. And then Spirit would be like, okay, you're going to move over here. And then it's kind of moved about. And then as technology has caught up, we have things like Facebook Live. I had visions of for years, but I was like, when will it happen? So we got Facebook Live, we got Instagram Live, YouTube. I've had the channel for years, but never really did anything with it until this past year, like late in 2019, I think it was. I actually started putting up videos regularly. And so I feel like this is the right format, but now we're looking at publishing and some other things. So there's always somewhere else that it's going, but I'm feeling this more than, radio, more than like TV, more than, I just feel that social media is the wave.
Yeah, like we got 3 cameras going now.
Yeah, like this. And that was very difficult in the past. So we're hitting more people quickly.
Yeah.
Quickly.
And, like with everything being so easy, like you don't have to have like a camcorder or video camera, like.
Right. I don't have the headphones. I don't have to bring somebody, it's not complicated. And Spirit was showing me this for years. So I, after going on a few different radio shows and things like that, I realized that this was going to need to be something done on a regular basis. And I really haven't stopped. So 7 years of doing it probably? Yeah. Just always something.
Well, you've got the face for it.
Thank you.
Yes.
So do you.
Thank you. So coming off of Ask a Medium, you created Ask Ivy, which is more of a discussion show. If you guys haven't tuned in yet, please do. It's totally awesome. We actually have a few questions from tonight that we're going to do Wednesday.
Okay, good.
They're very good.
Fun.
In that you're teaching while you're not teaching. So how do you feel this new show has helped others to open up about psychic, mediumistic, and empathic tendencies, abilities?
Okay, so the Ask Ivy show.
Yeah.
The Ask Ivy show is really different from Ask a Medium. So the Ask a Medium show, I'm taking people's questions, giving psychic answers. And then Ask Ivy is really going back to the roots of how I started doing radio and these live shows. It was always an opportunity for people to ask their questions, but it was a place for us to talk about developmentally what's going on within this and bringing people back to their roots and understanding that we all have this. And so what I did was sort of put it on the back burner for a while and was just doing, the psychic shows, and then realized every single time I stop, it just overflows. There are so many questions. People have so many really good questions, and I can't get to them when we're doing readings, and I can't get to them on social media and in between. And I have to have a healthy set of boundaries with people, so I'm not constantly answering all these questions, without it being an appointment. And even with my students, they had so many good questions, but it didn't fit into the curriculum or whatever. So Ask Ivy, that show, was an opportunity to ask anything, any of the questions about the universe or healing or pain, more in-depth, a more in-depth look at life itself. I love it.
Yeah, I thought when you mentioned that you were going to do that, I thought it was brilliant. And every week there's new stuff, and new people tuning in and getting turned on and coming back. I've seen so many new names that just keep.
Yes.
It's really awesome.
And we weren't sure.
No.
I wasn't sure because I was like, well, I haven't really done it in a little bit. I mean, it hasn't been a long time, but it's been a little bit. I put it on the shelf. And I said, well, geez, I hope people tune in and really want to grow. Mm-hmm. I hope people are proving that they have a growth mindset and they want to develop, spiritually and just self-development. And it has been great.
Yeah, there are a lot of people.
I'm very pleased.
They will tune in and they'll ask the mediumship question, and we say, oh, this and that show, and then they come up with a good question that they actually had, and it's helping a lot of people. I love it.
Right. Well, and that's interesting because you could take a question that's like, tell me what the winning lottery numbers are going to be, which I'm probably not going to answer anyways, but they could take that question and they can transform it into something else. Tell me what I could do to increase my prosperity in life. Whatever.
Yeah. Phrasing.
Yes.
So back to Ask a Medium. You do horoscopes on Ask a Medium, but you don't use the typical tools or any tools that the astrologers use. This is always, I remember the first video I saw of yours where you were doing this. I'm like, what's going on here? How are you doing that?
Right.
And we got a comment on it recently too of someone else asking the same thing. But how'd you realize that you could give mass reading? And are you shocked when you see your videos compared to astrologers' videos and they say the same thing?
Sometimes I am. I always, even because you do your daily tarot flip and then I do my daily message, and when they match, which is pretty much every day, when they match, we're like, oh, this is amazing. It's real. Yeah, like we should try our hand at this professionally. Like you're psychic or something. It is always crazy. It is always mind-blowing but I see it with my students too, that I could have 10 people in a room all saying the same thing without having ever spoken to each other. How on earth, Well, because it's real. It's real. And so, yes, I am amazed when I listen to real astrologers who are giving, astrological horoscopes based on the planets and to see my accuracy. But I've also tested it out over the years, involuntarily even, with Christina Del Rey, our astrology teacher at the academy and my dear friend. And, a ton of my clients go over to see her or vice versa. And, we always get the same thing. And she and I would do these live shows and it was like, what? She would planetarily have proof of what I was seeing psychically or through mediumship. So, my not using tools is always been, I don't want to say it's a problem for me, but I can't use tools. I've tried to mess around with the tarot. I've tried to touch things. I can't. It's all in the way. The way the information comes to me, it channels directly and it comes out and it's like a stream of consciousness that I cannot shut off. And if I'm going to be turned on, I want to get out of the way. Mm-hmm. I need me, my preferences, my ego, my thoughts. I need to remove myself and I don't want anything blocking the flow. So any kind of tool is just going to block it. So what I did with the horoscopes, Spirit had said, the next thing we want you to do for a live show. Okay, so I was like, oh boy, here we go. They were like, you're going to take everybody and you're going to group them by their astrological sign and you're going to tell them what we have to say for a week or for a month. And I was like, this could bomb because no one's probably ever seen it like this. They're going to be like, she's not an astrologer. And she's not one of the tarot flippers, so I don't fit into any category, but there it was. And it was just matches the planets. Who knew? But I kind of did, Yeah, people love it.
Recent addition is that board. Does that help you out a lot? Or?
The board and the cats, yes. It helps. Yeah. I feel like the board is also helping maybe the audience to understand what I'm talking about, because I feel like if I could break it down day by day, mm-hmm. I'm not just sort of babbling about the whole week and forcing them to listen harder. I feel like maybe a visual is helping. I don't know, but it helps me to sort of categorize so that because when you're doing this, you're channeling, so you don't have any sense of like numbers or math or like logic. And because I'm talking about days of a week, the board has helped me to keep everything divided, and I feel like I can more fully develop a message before moving on to the next one.
Yeah, I like it a lot, and it's funny. It's fun to see it happen. Like, instead of it just being in your head, I remember filming some of your videos where it just come out, but this way I can see, like, sometimes you go this way, sometimes you go backwards.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's really interesting.
Yeah, I've gone back and watched a couple times, and I'm like, that looks crazy. I have no recollection of any of it, but it's accurate.
Yeah, it's awesome. So you have your degree in journalism.
Yeah.
And so what drew you to journalism, and was there a particular area of journalism that you wanted to specialize in?
So I went into watchdog journalism. I wanted to expose things that were like exposés and, crooked politics, or, corruption, just a million injustices that are going on. And I planned on using that internationally. I was hoping to start more locally, but also do freelance and things like that. So I chose journalism ultimately because I've been writing since I was really small, and binding my own books, before I knew words, before I could write, I would illustrate and bind, and won some, when I was, young at school, some nationwide competitions and things like this. And I got scholarships and did pretty well with writing, and just wasn't sure that I really wanted to do it playfully. I feel like any abilities that we have, we should use for the greater service of others. And so, so I felt very passionate about going in that direction. And, before that, I was looking at psychology. And so what I found funny is that it all kind of pieces together, even if you've twisted and turned, and I've taken a lot of turns. Yeah.
Psychology of spirit communication.
The psychology of spirit communication, the PSC method. Who'd have thunk it?
Yeah.
Yeah, pretty much.
That as coming in as a skeptic, like I didn't, believe in anything until I met you, and then going through the mediumship class and how you do it, and it's more like psychology, and it's like, it just matched like my approach way better, and like it wasn't airy fairy. I guess is the point. It was like real, and is the point. It was like real, and that you felt it and do it. So
that's that's how it is. I mean, there's no reason to get airy fairy and magical. This isn't. We're not a bunch of unicorns coming into this looking for. It's not. It's scientific. It can be measured. It's just energy. It's a lost language. It creates stability, in your mental health, your emotional health, which will in turn affect your physical health and well-being. And so I don't feel like my degree was wasted. I went for quite a few years for psychology. And when I switched to journalism, I only lost 1 credit. Everything transferred.
That's awesome.
My professors were like, what? How did you pull this off? And like, none of us had ever noticed it. It was almost identical. And so I got lucky. And so, I was upset when it got shelved and Spirit had me come out and start doing this. It certainly isn't great for your reputation to come out of the closet doing something like this. It was a very, very upsetting time, but I've forged ahead, and I now see how the psychology, as well as the journalism, as well as the media, how it all pieces together in my life calling. So I'm glad I stepped out in blind faith.
Good. Have you continued to write?
I do write. We're in the process of publishing a couple books, one of them being the PSC method, and a couple other things. And it's just taken on a much different form than what I thought it would.
Yeah.
But that's okay. I'm open to it twisting and turning.
That is okay, and that's the openness, and that's why you get where you are.
Yeah.
Federally had another good question. You're teaching on university campuses now. What's next? Where do you see yourself in 5 years?
In 5 years? Well, what I've been shown is the empathic awareness program expanding. So I see more universities, and I see more almost like conventions. I think that we're going to be able to bring this also into prison systems, rehabilitation centers. I think we're going to be able to help many more kids who are dealing with things like autism or even, adults on the spectrum. I see the empathic awareness branching out rather quickly. And I didn't think it was going to be the university snatching it up first, but it would appear to be going in, again, a little bit of a different directional pattern than I thought. All of it being great. And so we're going to go where we're led, but we want to focus on people really struggling with it, understanding that it's going to take a while before it will get mainstream. And then as far as the psychic mediumship is concerned, over the course of the next 5 years, I'm seeing that this program is going to get published and go international. I see more Ivy Leagues being placed around the world, kind of like franchises, and being able to reach more people through technology. Thank God.
Mm-hmm. Ivy Leagues, huh? You guys notice this radness, this product placement?
It's not at all a setup.
I didn't plan this out for weeks. So kind of with what you were saying about it expanding and everything, do you feel that, just kind of also with the myth busting, do you think that there has been more acceptance over the past few years that you've been doing it?
In general?
In general, but more in say, I want to say more professional fields, like the things are more.
Yes. So I'm not seeing more acceptance of the psychic mediumship, but we have to be realistic. I mean, we got a long haul here. People are really tuned out, really, really, really disconnected. It's looking bad out there. But what I have seen an improvement in, especially, is like Featherly had asked about the universities. I was banging on these doors 8 years ago. I was getting really loud 6 years ago, 4 years ago. I was pushing hard. I mean, going door to door with agendas and files and presentations, and every door was shut in my face. I was a laughing stock. Everyone looked at me like I had lobsters crawling out of my ears, a New York saying. And now it's like, come here, where have you been? So yeah, huge transformation. And what we can thank is mindfulness training and yoga for paving the way.
I'm a New Yorker now. I bought a
Yeah, you are.
I bought a butter lamb.
Yeah, you are. You got a butter lamb. And they're delicious.
It looked good too.
Welcome home.
I love butter. So you are an inspiration and a source of guidance for many people. So to whom do you look for inspiration and guidance other than me?
Other than you? Well, that's tough. The cat. Jane Goodall. I remember seeing her when I was like maybe 5 years old on HBO on a documentary, and I thought, this lady carries God in her bones. So sometimes if I feel like I'm getting disconnected, I'll keep an eye on Jane Goodall. Joyce Myers. She's a Christian speaker who I saw maybe 20 plus years ago, maybe 20, 25 years ago, something, when she first started going around to these bigger conventions. I remember her coming to New York, and I went and I saw her there. And she's a woman who I didn't know how to categorize her. I didn't know if she was like Christian. I didn't know if she was a medium. I didn't really understand exactly what her angle was, but I felt that she just sort of exceeded any kind of label you could possibly put on her. She had been molested, just really tortured, by her father for like 16 years or something, and abandoned by her mother, and had these horrible stories that just overcame everything. And I remember going to see her. I think it was her first time in this area. And now she's huge. I mean, she's international. Joyce Myers is everywhere. And she delivered out healings to the audience. Well, I had been diagnosed with some horrible ulcers at the time. And I remember the doctor saying to me, "My God, you are so young to have it this bad." And I was on these meds, and they were like, we can't reverse these, but we can kind of handle them. Well, I'm listening to this woman, and I went to go listen to her speak, and she just stopped in the middle of the whole thing. And she was like, "I'm delivering out healings, stop the music," and this and that. And everyone started speaking in tongues. it felt like everyone was speaking in tongues. It was probably like mostly, everyone around me, but I just went into almost like a trance-like state. And when she said ulcers, I claimed it. I stood up and I claimed the healing, and my ulcers disappeared. So when I went to the doctor a couple days later, they were supposed to do a final measurement on them, and they said, they're gone. You got to get out of jail free card. I said, have you ever seen anything like this? They said, I went to go see this Christian lady, and this happened. And he said, yeah, actually, I have. He said, congratulations. So I've been watching her ever since. There are a couple people that I feel channel directly, like God energy, and they can just heal people on the spot and things like this. And so, yeah, the two of them, and you and the cat.
Well, which cat?
Which is a given.
Both cats?
Yeah, I'd say both, honestly. Okay. How could we pick a favorite?
Good. One of them would claw your face up.
Mm-hmm.
Very good. Well, Ivy, thank you so much for this. This was hopefully enlightening for everybody here. We got a lot of great questions.
Thanks, guys,
a lot of
for tuning
questions that we're going to be handling Wednesday too.
Okay.
So Ask Ivy is going to really pop.
Fun.
And I'm glad we got to learn a little bit more about you. I thought that was really fun.
It was fun to talk about. Great questions. Thank you, Paul.
You're very welcome. And I think that if anyone's, enjoyed this kind of round table sort of open discussion, we do have on April 6th, it's a Monday, it's Roots Revival Roundtable, and what we'll be doing there is questions kind of like this. You pose them to Ivy, and then she answers, and we discuss. And it's very fun, very open, and
Roots Revival, $10 from anywhere in the world. You guys can tune in. Everybody gets to ask a question.
Yeah, and that'll be really awesome. And thank you guys so much for tuning in.
Hope you catch Psychic Mediumship Training Spring Session.
That's right, spring
March
session.
24th.
Yep, registration deadline March 20th.
Yes.
Yes.
All right, everybody.
And by then, thank you guys.
Take care.
And,
Thanks, Polly.
I don't know.